Chairman. Gentlemen, last week, as you know, we had the service chiefs testify, and I began my comments commending you, Mr. Secretary, and the President for the selection of such men and women of high caliber, high integrity, leading our military, including the current chairman. And one of the reasons is that they typically give this committee and the American people honest testimony. And an example of that was last week. I asked what the risk level was our nation faced in being able to conduct a full spectrum of operations, including one conventional conflict. And each service chief said that this would entail, quote, high military risk for their service. Each service chief, which I found remarkable and distressing. General Dunford, do you know if that's ever happened before, where all four service chiefs have stated that we currently exist at a state of high military risk for our forces? General Milley described what that meant, which is a lot of death for our military if they have to go into this kind of spectrum of ops. Is this unprecedented?
Senator, I don't know if it's unprecedented, but over the last several years, I think all of the chiefs, to include me when I was a commandant, and the chiefs before I assumed that responsibility, have been articulating the risk associated with the readiness challenges that we've had, really now that date back as far as 2005.
So do you agree then, I assume, with the assessment of each service chief that we face high military risk in terms of the spectrum of ops that includes...
Senator, I don't agree that we have... I agree that each of the services has high risk, and they've articulated. The one thing I think I would like to say, and then answer your question, is we today can defend the homeland. We today can meet our alliance responsibilities, and we today have a competitive advantage over any of those 4+1 we spoke about. But I fully associate myself with the chiefs when they talk about the time and the casualties that we would take as a result of readiness shortfalls that we have today.
Do you think high military risk is acceptable?
I did not say that, Senator, for 1 minute.
So
what I want to do is I want to communicate to those who are listening, both in the force and our potential adversaries, to make it clear that my judgment is that the U.S. military today can, in fact, dominate any enemy in a conflict.
Mr. Secretary, the four service chiefs talked about high military risk. Again, I thought that was remarkable. I don't know if that's ever happened, Mr. Chairman, before this committee before, but it begs the question that we've been talking about in this hearing today is how, if that's what they're saying, how can the President not support increased military spending? Right now there's a new Gallup poll out saying first time since 2002 the American people support more military spending. If the service chiefs are each saying we face high military risk, how can we not be supportive of additional military spending? I just don't understand that at all.
First of all, let me thank you and associate myself with your commendation of the senior leadership of our department. We're blessed as a country to have such people serving us, and they told it to you straight, and I too associate myself with what they said. There is risk in the force, and the risk...
It's actually high risk.
Let me tell you, unpack that, because they each did that for you. It's different in each of the services, but there are a few common denominators. One has been budget instability, which is why I am and will continue to hew to the idea that we need budget stability, and that means everybody coming together. Not this idea and that idea and that idea, but one that everybody can agree to. And we haven't seen that yet, and it's the end of the fiscal year.
Mr. Secretary, just
let me finish.
Quick point on that. Just a quick point on that.
8 times in a row. So that's going to have an effect.
You've had the minority leader of the United States Senate filibuster the defense appropriations bills, not 3 times as my colleagues have said, 6 times in the last year and a half. So we're trying to make that happen, and
thank you.
We are all trying to make that happen.
Thanks. Let me go on. There's another thing that's of substantive importance other than the budget instability the last few years, and that is the services. And I think you mentioned General Milley. He in particular, and I want to associate myself with this, is trying to move to full spectrum, exactly the words you used, from an Army that we dedicated almost wholly in terms of force structure to the coin fights that we had to conduct in Iraq and Syria. So the Army's been resourcing them heavily. Now he is trying to get his forces trained for full spectrum combat. And as he said to you, that's a matter of budget stability, yes, but it also is a matter of time, and he's working on it. That's his highest priority, and I agree with him for the U.S. Army. He's trying to get all his brigade combat teams to go through the Nellis, the CTC at Nellis. That's going to take some time. If we go to the Marine Corps, and I know General Neller spoke to you about that, their highest readiness priority, which I also want to foot stomp, as I'm sure he did, is in their aviation, and there are a lot of different dimensions to that. One is the recap of their aviation, both rotary wing and with the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter coming down the line. With the Navy, it's mostly a matter of ship maintenance, depot maintenance, and Admiral Richardson's working on that. In the Air Force, for General Goldfein, the Air Force continues to have readiness challenges which are associated partly with budget instability, but mostly with the high op tempo of the Air Force. We're working the United States Air Force really hard in that air campaign over in Iraq and Syria. It's essential, it's important, but it means that air wings are constantly rotated in and out, and when they come back, they have to go back in for readiness training. So in the budget we submitted for FY17, and we said this, readiness and resourcing the readiness plans of each of the services was our highest priority. So there's no question about it. There's risk there. It has accumulated over the years. We need stability and we need priority in order to work through it. We need stability from you. We'll give it priority, and I totally support the chiefs and what they told you last week.